listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you, and I'm glad that you're here with us. We are live on CKLU 96.7 FM on the radio. We're also streaming live at cklu.ca, and you can just click on the Radio Player Canada app there, and you can also download it. So if you just click on it, you can stream it. But if you I guess, double click on it and allow it to download or whatever, you can take us with you and listen to us anytime, anywhere on the app. So if I sound a little bit discombobulated, it is because I am. This is the first morning where yesterday morning, Facebook, my Sudbury News page was not allowed on my streaming device to stream the show, and now this morning YouTube was not allowing it. So we were on YouTube only yesterday, and somehow I guess Facebook and YouTube must have meetings because they're only one day apart where they did not allow the show to be streamed. So it seems like they're pretty darn on the same page somehow, even though they're two totally separate companies, all thanks to Bill C-11, Bill C-18, the Online News Act, all designed to help people like me be able to pay for my show, apparently. And as a result of the government's helping me, I can no longer stream on Facebook or YouTube. But some people are very happy about this. They think that's the greatest thing since sliced bread. We'll share a comment I found on LinkedIn from actually a friend of mine, a former co-worker who was very excited about the Bill C-11, Bill C-18, thought that the way we were sharing our news before was rather, it was just helping billionaires out. It wasn't helping governments out. So now that it's helping governments out, it's a lot better. Now things are the way they should be. And as a result, people like myself cannot stream on YouTube or Facebook. But now it's just forcing us to get our act together and get our streaming service up on our website. So it'll just be a little while before we get our live stream up on our website, and then you can just comment there. So you just go to our website, sudbury.news, and then you go to Sudbury News Talk, and it will be there live each and every weekday morning between 7:30 and 8:30. So we got to get on that. We'll be on that hopefully by Monday. Hopefully by Monday, over the weekend, we can have everything ready to go for you there, and also have our stream going on our new Rumble page that I still have to set up. But I was being kind of lazy because I was like, well, maybe like some of the commenters on the show had suggested that we're not real news anyways, right? So we don't really know what we're talking about. So maybe Facebook and YouTube felt the same thing, and they're like, that's fine. Let the guy just have his little show. And but no, apparently, I guess we are considered news as the definition goes from Bill C-11, Bill C-18, and their interpretation of it. I'm talking Facebook or Meta and Alphabet company or whatever, the ones that own Google and YouTube, and the ones Meta owns Facebook and Instagram. Anyways, let's just have a show today for those listening on. Oh, it looks like we are on YouTube this morning. I did try it, but I don't know. It looks someone's commenting. I have it up on my screen here, but it doesn't look like it was doing anything, and it is. So we are live on YouTube. Good. It was grayed out on my device, and I've never seen that before. So there you go. So we still have a stream on YouTube, so that's good. And good morning, Monique. Thanks for being with us. Even though I announced on, I guess I announced on the, Monique, would you be so kind as to go on our Facebook and just say we are live on YouTube, if that's okay? If you can do that. If not, that's fine. We'll just, we're going to head to the weather. We'll be back, and we're going to have Shane joining us momentarily this morning too, to talk about this whole breakdown of social media and news and the government and big tech and all that later after our local news. But anyways, let's just have some weather, and we'll be back right after this. And Sudbury Weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca, which is on our Sudbury.news Facebook page. And no, it's not on our Facebook page. It's on our website, Sudbury.news website. I say that all the time. 7 degrees currently. It's mostly cloudy. And today we can expect clearing this morning. Wind becoming northwest, 20 kilometers late this morning. There you go. That's the wind for those that might be out there sailing. 19 is our high today. UV index is 5 or moderate. Tonight, clear, fog patches dissipating near midnight, and low of 6. So it'll be cooler tonight. I guess that's why we're getting a little bit of fog. Let's see here. And you got your extended forecast. Friday, mainly cloudy, as we said. 21 degrees. Saturday, mix of sun and cloud, high of 21. Sunday, 30% chance of showers, high of 17. 60% chance of showers on Monday, and high of 16. Tuesday, 19 degrees, and high of... Tuesday is a mix of sun and cloud, high of 19. And Wednesday is a mix of sun and cloud, high of 21. And a look at your satellite, which is rather recent, 6:30 this morning, so just about an hour ago. Looks like we're clear. Even though, it doesn't seem the clearest out there right now, but looks like we're clear according to the satellite, and some clouds will be rolling in a little bit later, but that is your Sudbury weather. It is brought to you by sudburyweather.ca, and we will be back right after this, and we are live on YouTube apparently, even though... It was a little bit confusing logging in this morning. I'm sure it's just a next step on its way out, but we're on YouTube as long as we can. We'll share this to Facebook right after the show as well, and to Twitter, and all the handles are at Sudbury News. So YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And hopefully coming soon, we'll just be live on our website, Sudbury.news, but more on that when we come back right after this. And we are in fact back, and it looks like we have a few of us joining on YouTube, which I'm grateful for. And maybe we'll give a few shout outs here. So Monique, as I said, she first one to, when I checked the comments, look like, hey, we are live on YouTube. So that's great. Good morning, Monique. Thanks for being with us. Good morning. Hey, Aaron, calm seas never produced skilled sailors, for sure. Thanks, Belinda, for that. Much appreciated. And that's true. You got a lot of opposition can help us to be stronger. Maybe they judged you to be news because you call yourself news, change your name to deep dive or chat or something, not news, and the algorithm would not think you're news. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and all putting this whole initiative together, I never thought we'd get as communist as we got so fast in this country. I knew we were heading that way, and that's the reason why I wanted to help to talk about the events going on in our country and in our community, because I knew where this country was headed, but I didn't see it happening as fast as we are going. And just the reason why I'm saying communist, if some people got worried about that word and why I would say that, is in communist countries, they shut down other news other than the state-run news, right? So, and in our country, in order to do that, you can pass bills and say all you want and say they're for a certain reason. But if the end result is shutting down independent media and other media other than the state-run media, then that would be considered a communist type thing. And I was seeing other things leading us to a communist type country, because we're already socialist to begin with, one step away from communism. And so I wanted to basically educate people on what's going on, have a conversation about it, because apparently people get all emotional and excited about when you talk about politics and things like that, but it doesn't need to be. You can actually just talk about it and have a discussion, which discussions are hard for a lot of people to have because it boils their blood having a discussion if other people don't agree with them for some reason. Don't know why, just is. So let's see. Belinda says, went on the Facebook page and told everybody you were on YouTube. Thank you so very much. I appreciate that, Belinda. Like climate change, communism has a way of sneaking up on you. For sure. Thank you for that. And it is true. Anyways, so here we are, and thankful to be on YouTube. Let's dive right into some of the local stories we got here. Before Shane will be joining us, talking a little bit more on our deep dive today, which is, I just want to make sure, he's going to be connected, able to come on here. Locally speaking, though, we talked about this yesterday, and you can find news aggregated at our Sudbury.news homepage. All of the local media just comes in one convenient place for everybody. And this is, so we have CBC, CTV, Sudbury Star, Sudbury.com, and everything. So, okay, so CBC's headline. You've heard of the 6, but what about calling Northeastern Ontario the 7? We had a pretty good conversation about that yesterday. Northeastern Ontario Tourism has a new brand called the 7, which is meant to promote the region to a younger generation. And we talked yesterday about how an acquaintance of mine had a marketing company, and he was behind naming the 5, the basketball team, the 5, with the same sentiment that we would call this area the 5, not the 7, right? Because Toronto is the 6. So he thought, the 416, that's the reason why Toronto got the name the 6. And so maybe we could call ourselves, we could call ourselves the 5 instead of Toronto calling themselves the 6. But I guess here the marketing team said, no, we don't like the 5. We're going to call ourselves the 7. Anyways, I'm just on my personal Facebook page here because there's a lot of dings coming in through Sudbury News' Facebook page. So I didn't want the sound to come through on the radio. But joining us now, we got Shane to discuss some of the stories that I've been talking about this morning. So Shane, welcome, and hope you're having a good morning so far. How are you doing?
Better than the weather. As I mentioned last time, I'm kind of a beach bum, so this summer has been kind of a bummer. And as I've joked many times, I wish they would scrap the carbon tax just to bring the temperatures up because I want to enjoy my summer and go swimming and stuff. But yeah. Anyway.
Well, I know, and there's a lot of people that would probably be, possibly offended by what you just said. But the more and more I look into it, it is right. The more CO2 there is, if you really want a green world, it actually creates more vegetation, and subsequently it eats more carbon. And so the alarming aspect of the increase in CO2 isn't so alarming when you understand how all that works. How it's just like the more carbon there is, the greener the planet is, the more it eats the carbon, and like the beach bums can enjoy warmer weather, and everyone's happy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is not my area, but my understanding is that heat is normally good for the planet. So historically, that has been the case anyway.
And another thing too, the alarmists fail to recognize, or at least don't want to acknowledge it, or don't want to discuss the idea of how the Earth's temperature has been changing over its entire life, and how many ice ages have we gone through. Just to prove that, just the one thing that proves the difference in temperature globally, historically, are the amount of ice ages we've had historically alone, right? And we can't account for how much. Sure, we can all, even the scientists that aren't climate alarmists, agree that the climate is changing slightly, but it's not to the point of everybody, just burning down their house and killing themselves over it, kind of thing. And yeah. So anyways, it's not to that point. And again, a lot of people are very, I know there's a lot of shows even on this station that talk about the climate situation, and it gets people's blood boiling when we talk about it. But I would hope we could continue to at least talk about it, keep the discussion. Right. Some people are like, the discussion's over. Science all agrees and you're wrong. That idea, right? So it's not.
Even Aaron O'Toole kind of said something to that effect when he became the conservative leader.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. Yes. And, yeah. So, and I'm not, I just, yeah, I don't think the discussion's over. I don't think science ever says the discussion is over. So that would be definitely false science, if you ask me. If you're a true scientist, science is never done. It's always questioning and always continuing to unpack and uncover things. Now, yeah, this morning I had a bit of not a scare, but I was logging into the tool that I use, the platform, and I can't get into our Facebook live feed anymore on it. It's not there. And then I went to go to YouTube, and it was grayed out, and I couldn't click the Sudbury News page. So I thought, I guess we're not on YouTube either. And so I put a note on our Facebook page saying we're only on audio, CKLU, but we are actually indeed. I went through the process and I just said, okay, I'm just going to name the show and complete the process that I usually do. And even though it didn't say the show was waiting, that I could see it usually does when I do that, we are live on YouTube. So I just think it's a little bit of a glitch that's allowing us right now. And I don't see us going forward for that much longer on Facebook due to Bill C-11, Bill C-18, the Online News Act, and the government's response to try to make journalists and companies that are in the industry make more money and make these billionaire tech companies pay their fair share, right? And so the end result is that people like myself and smaller outlets will no longer be able to practice journalism. Do you think that was a good move on the federal government's side, and do you think that was just incompetence, or do you think that was done on purpose?
Yeah, I mean, like I said in our first conversation about this, I think it could be a little bit of both. The government doesn't necessarily like sit around this big round table like, how do we control the population? But when the opportunities come up, they take those opportunities. And so I think it was incompetence. I'm not sure they really saw it coming, that big tech would push back the way they did. And now it's kind of working to their benefit.
Oh, so that's this is the thing that I'm saying. Like, when someone passes a bill and it's incompetent, but at the end result is in their benefit, shouldn't that make one question to say, could that have already been known in the first place if it indeed the outcome is the benefit to them? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like in this case, we already had the example of Australia. The same thing happened there. So I'm sure our government officials were aware of that. Yeah, I don't know.
But isn't that odd that, in Australia, they were able to find a way to not shut down all their independent media, but in Canada, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And independent media is going to go the way of the dodo, and all we're going to be left with is state-run media. What does that remind you of?
I mean, yeah, exactly. But I think a huge chunk of the population are just not buying it. And corporate media is not doing well these days, and independent media is becoming more and more popular. So I think things are going to start turning around.
I was on LinkedIn yesterday, and I saw, a former colleague of mine, consider him a friend, making a statement on addressing Bill C-11, Bill C-18, and it just seems like myself and anyone who's been on the show is kind of understanding the true measure of what this is and for what it really is, and looking at it as a not so good thing. But I haven't heard anybody talking about it in a bad way, or meaning in favor of the government way, until I read this comment. And I know this particular person comes from a socialist leaning, loves the idea of communism and big government, and people should just be subservient to the government, that they're all benevolent and all knowing and all powerful, and that's fine. In a free country. You're allowed to think that, right? You're allowed to think it's better not to be free in a free country, but you're not allowed to think it's good to be free in a communist country. So anyways, let's just look at this comment here. He says, everyone's complaining about the results of Bill C-18 so far and angry that Facebook stopped sharing news. Did you consider the possibility that Facebook was a terrible platform for news? Which is arguable anyways, right? So I can give him that. Facebook algorithm gives you the news that will create comments and drive clicks. They do that by presenting only the news that will upset you, not news you need, news that exhausts you and wears you down. Go and download the apps from some reputable news sources, or bookmark their websites. Select the topics that matter to you and the decisions you make in your life. Make a point of opening a news source every day and choose to engage with the news in a meaningful way. Allowing an American billionaire to spoon feed you a reality that only makes you angry and makes him money is madness.
Well, first of all, I'm going to mute myself because I keep hearing myself echo here. It's throwing me off.
And there's no echo on our side, just to let you know.
Okay. So, yeah, the first thing there is most people are not going to do that. We become used to receiving our news through social media platforms. I'm not even doing that. Very, very rarely I go onto news sites to read the news, because it's just been drilled in my brain to see news on my timeline. And perhaps I should start doing that, because it is important to stay informed. Although I do, watch a few news programs on YouTube and Rumble, but anyway, and the other funny thing there is the billionaire comment, as though, elitists are not behind big media. They're just behind big tech.
Or behind big government.
Right.
Or behind big government, like elitists. You don't think there's lobbyists and influences that government take from elitists as well?
Yeah, the two work together, obviously.
So you have big tech, big government, and media. Here are the players of what we're talking about. All in this, whatever's going on, just eliminating anyone else other than them. So any other voices. And this particular person said, why don't you engage with that media? But you can't. You can't engage with big media. They've all shut down their comments. If you say anything, they moderate any dissenting voices out of their conversations. You don't have conversations with big media. They just tell you what they want to tell you.
Right. Yeah. They have an agenda. And look, the alternative media has an agenda too, but they're not bought and paid for by the government and big industry. So that's the difference.
Yeah. And so we do have somebody agreeing with and I did say it's arguable that Facebook isn't the greatest platform in the world for news, right? However, I've really kind of benefited from, and I don't think it's only news that makes you angry. He says the algorithms only gave you news that made you angry, which was not true in my case. But I guess he's referring to hearing other points of view. That makes possibly him angry. Whereas I am open to other, like I could hear mainstream media and hear it for what it is. It doesn't make me angry. I just realize these are people that are paid and they can't say what they really feel because they'll lose their jobs. So I understand that as I'm listening to them. It doesn't make me angry. I understand the situation and I take it for what it is. Do I think it's truthful? Probably not 100%, because again, what words are these anchors reading off the screen? Did they write the words they're saying? It's kind of like that, the movie with Jim Carrey in it, where, is it Bruce Almighty? And he's a news guy in Buffalo. And he gets on the prompter and he puts whatever he wants on it. And what's his nose? I forget the comedian's name. He's on The Office as well. He's just reading off whatever
Steve
he's.
Carell, yeah.
Steve
So it's
Carell.
Yeah.
I think that's very telling. I think it's very telling of our news today. Who's actually writing the stuff? You know what I mean? Who's doing the who's being skeptics on the news side, right? But anyways, see, we have trust that people can decipher, the news. Exactly. Mainstream media is dying. The younger generation does not follow them. And the problem is here now, news are not able to get out their ideas, right? And so now that YouTube and Facebook are going to stop sharing news, it's not only Canadian news they're stopping sharing, it's also international news to Canadians. So now we become
it's just all news. It's across the board.
Exactly. So we become in a bubble and we don't really hear other things that are coming in on social media, but we can download the CTV app. We can download the Global News app. We can download all the other news apps. Now your phone's constantly going ding, 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 ding from all these other news sources all the time. And you're eventually going to get fed up. And news isn't going to be able to be shared in a like I heard Robbie Robertson died 3 days after he passed away, which, I'm always looking at the news too, to do this show. Like that's just one, if news was able to be shared on Facebook, I would have known that in real time. Someone would have shared an article. Robbie Robertson died. It would have went boom right up on my feed. And I would have known that. And I could have it didn't make me angry. All the other news I was scrolling through that I didn't agree with, I would just go past it. It was just like, okay, CNN is saying, the world's going to end in 3 years because of the global warming. Okay, next. You know what I mean? It wouldn't have made me angry to see that. I just know that that's what they do. That's the kind of news they share. So you shared something with me this morning that I thought was right on topic with this whole thing and news in Canada and who's allowed to do news and who's not. You shared an article here that one of the news outlets were not even allowed to go to the Liberal caucus meetings or rallies or whatever.
Yeah, the Liberal, I don't have it in front of me, but it was some Liberal event.
The caucus retreat. The retreat.
Retreat, yeah. They didn't allow True North, which is really weird because I could understand maybe Rebel News. I know the reporters are kind of aggressive at times, but
yeah,
True North, the reporters are very respectful. Like Andrew Lawton, really, you're barring him from attending the event. He's such a nice guy. From at least he comes across that way anyway.
But this is what I'm alluding to. They're considered independent. They're not considered one of the big government approved media sources, right?
Yeah, and you would think that because the Liberals are clearly plummeting in the polls, that they would do some damage control here and maybe allow independent media to ask them questions to make themselves look better to some degree. I don't know how much it would help them, but it would at least give them a better image that, they're okay with other perspectives, covering their events and asking them questions. So
For sure. And here it is here. So the Liberal government has refused accreditation to True North to attend and report on its caucus retreat in London, Ontario. The True North's Andrew Lawton, as you said, applied to the Prime Minister's office to attend the 3-day retreat earlier this week, but received no reply. When he went to the retreat venue, he was told that the media registration desk, at the media registration desk, he was not on the list and that registration is closed. Lawton, a journalist and broadcaster with more than a decade of experience in the industry, is True North's managing editor and resides in London. It's his hometown. According to Lawton, no reason was provided for the denial of accreditation. I spoke to someone from the Liberal Whip's office who reiterated that I was not accredited, but refused to offer a rational or name basically name the decision maker who made this decision. And he gave his, he put a statement out on X, formerly Twitter, on that. But isn't that interesting? He said he was not accredited. So how are
Right.
you indeed accredited as a journalist or a journalism organization? How does that work? You have a journalist background. You went to school for journalism. Did you ever learn in school how you become accredited as a journalist? Is this a process? Is this like getting your license? Do you have to be approved from the government? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it doesn't really fall on the individual reporter, but on the media outlet itself. So I'm not really entirely sure how that works, but as far as I know, it's a government process.
So
it's just like college accreditation, right? Like it's a government agency or whatever that provides the accreditation.
But here you have the government saying you're not accredited, right? They like the idea of accrediting or not accrediting, but they took offense when Twitter, or X, formerly Twitter, stated that the CBC was state-funded media, basically. Like it was, so they're accredited, not only accredited, but financed by taxpayers' money, right? So they are, they were just deemed what it was. But the government got really upset at that they would even say that they're state-sponsored media, state-funded, which indeed they are, $1.2 billion a year. Plus, they stand to benefit. We talked about this yesterday on yesterday's show. They stand to benefit the most because I guess the way the government wrote the legislation, that these platforms have to pay the most to the news organizations who have the most journalists. And CBC, in fact, has the most journalists. So how does that, that's the way the government wrote this legislation, that these big tech companies have to, it's not like every click you get so much no matter what news organization you are. So let's say I went out and I was able to get 1 million clicks and they'd have to pay me the same thing they'd have to pay the CBC who got 1 million clicks. Wouldn't that be fair and honest? No. The government said if CBC gets 1 million clicks, they get way more money than the guy who only has one journalist making the news, kind of thing. So right away they set up the game so it was an unfair playing field. And knowing that these independent media outlets are very, they don't have very many journalists. They just have a few. So they set it up like that. So obviously the CBC is going to be the big winner from their legislation.
Right.
A couple comments here I just want to get to. Stephen says, for news, I don't mind choosing a respected and trustworthy gatekeeper. Yes, of course, there is accreditation, for sure. But who should allow the accreditation? So if you have a communistic, totalitarian government who's the one who's deciphering who's accredited and who's not, how does that help anybody? Who's deciding who's accredited and who's not? What's the process? How do you, like... If Andrew Lawton has all the accreditation, he's been in the industry for 10 years, he's not accredited, or his news organization, which the same thing, they have credible people there that have years and years in the industry. Why are they not accredited? Like what? So Noel says all the tactics were never meant to stick around during the internet age. The internet has screwed everyone out of their secrets. Okay, so so the internet's allowed people over, the time the internet's been out to actually have open conversations and things like this. And I don't think a lot of people who like to control the conversation really like the idea of just a bunch of people being open and sharing things openly, right? They call it misinformation a lot of times. Don't they offer you monetization? YouTube and Facebook? Yeah, the less monetization than CBC would get, which doesn't make any sense. That's what I'm saying, Stephen. So if CBC's monetization from YouTube is a million times more than me because they have more journalists, my monetization, I might get a penny for a million views. They'll get $100. Like, how does that make any sense whatsoever? It's the same eyeballs on it. It's the same revenue generating. Like, they can sell advertising on my video because it goes to that many eyeballs. They're going to make the money. YouTube's going to make the money. If they're that worried about billionaires making money and not us getting it, why do they then only give the news organizations have the most journalists more monetization from these billionaire companies, and people like me who are just as good or can have a viral story go out there and get just as many clicks and make just as much money for those platforms? Wouldn't they want me to get the money?
Right.
Our government? Not necessarily, apparently. So good morning. This is South Point 73. I love these handles. Do a deep dive on news media accreditation. I'd be interested to see that. Well, obviously, we're going to do that at some point. Is that something I can kind of put in your camp at all, Shane, to look into, how media gets accredited in this country and all that jazz? Because I think it is important to know.
Yeah, I could look that up for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I know a little bit about accreditation on the academic side, and like the government has these specific standards, like the academic institution has to have a residence, and they have to have a library that is like a physical library that has so many resources and all that. But an online, gonna mute myself again, but an online academic institution that teaches all the same things and has all the same academic standards can't be accredited because of those things. And it doesn't seem fair to me.
Cool. And thanks for that. At least you have that understanding so far of, the academic side, which is true. So Tracy, thanks for letting us know that that's you. All these different handles, it's and I don't, I'll just probably keep saying, your comments instead of who it is, but definitely appreciate that clarification. But yeah, let's look into what it takes to be accredited for media in Canada, because that is important, and we won't be accredited. I know that. That's because I don't think they want people like True North or Rebel News or the Western Standard or the Telegraph. Forget what it is, Telegraph something or other. And so there's independent media that I know they don't want to accredit. The only ones that are going to be accredited: CBC, Global, Toronto Star, these ones, right? These the big media companies that are already here. The same players will be accredited. You won't hear opposite voices, any dissenting voices. They'll all speak in unison, in lockstep, and you'll find they'll be on the government side usually. And if not, you'd have to question. It's kind of like wrestling, right? Wrestling, they're all on the same side. They all go out afterwards for dinner. They go out for drinks. They all have a great time. They practice their choreographed, match beforehand, and they to the people, they look like they're opposing each other, and they create some drama. You might see that in the media, but I don't think it's anything that would take the government on or anything like that without their knowledge or without them, beginning or wanting that narrative or putting it out that way, kind of thing. I don't know if am I being confusing with what I'm saying right now, Steve or
No,
Shane?
but yeah, like I don't know how you could possibly hold the government to account if you're getting money from them and a generous amount of money from them. I don't understand that.
No. And for Steven here, I would say for 1 million clicks, you get a penny is what I said, not a penny per click kind of thing. And that's the way it works. You have to get millions of clicks just to get a small amount of money. So I know before YouTube paid a lot of money, but they've been scaling it back over time. You got to get a lot of clicks, a lot of view time as well. So they also calculate how long people are looking at your video. If they just go on and off, that doesn't really account for much. If they watch the whole thing, that accounts for something. So they have like a metrics to meet in order to get monetized. And I don't meet a lot of their standards because I need a certain amount of followers, but they don't allow followers to come on. Like my wife couldn't even follow me for the longest time, my own wife, until they realized she was my wife, I guess, and allowed it to happen. As I said it on the air, I don't know how many times. My own wife can't even follow me on social media because they don't allow it. So I don't know how many other people that are watch this show that still says they're invited. Like Shane, it says you're invited, but you never really followed the show. I'll show you that at one point. Whenever you like it, it says you're invited, but you never actually followed Sudbury News. And there's a lot of people like that. I should actually have like 30,000 followers, but I only have less than 6,000. And I need to get 10,000 in order to be monetized on Facebook. So they're just making it so I don't get to 10,000 and I'm not monetized. So it's not only just the government, it's also the platforms that actually ideologically, the platforms are in line with what our current government's ideologies are in both Canada and the United States. We've seen that historically. They give more money to the Democratic campaigns than they do the Republicans. There's been, a lot of things that have happened in the last election. We've seen, even with the Twitter papers, right? After Twitter was purchased from Elon Musk, we've seen the government's meddling with social media there and how that impacted the election down there. They held back the Hunter Biden laptop story, for instance, was just one example.
Yeah, the fact checking too. I mean, it's so obviously biased towards the left. It's not hard to see that.
Yeah, and we've had a mainstream left-leaning media for I want to almost say forever, but for a long, long time, anyways. And anyone who is an expert in gauging bias and they do analysis on it, prove it. They show it. They have the charts that show which organizations are more left-leaning or more right-leaning. There are those that are biased as well on the right side, Fox News, case in point kind of thing, right? So there's very few totally unbiased news organizations out there. Independent ones, I would hope, would be more, but at least they're still asking questions. They seem to be more right-leaning in a lot of ways because our current government is more left-leaning. And if you're holding account to the left-leaning government, you're going to come across, I think, as a more right, kind of establishment bias anyways. How are we doing on time, Shane?
I have to get going.
I kind of figured that. Well, maybe next time, if you can find that information out, we can continue the conversation on accreditation in media, and we'll look into that a little bit more, and we'll continue the conversation then.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and thank you, Stephen, for mentioning that. Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Okay, thank you very much, Shane. Much appreciated as usual. Always a great conversation. Looking forward to having you back on, possibly next Thursday.
Yeah, as far as I know.
Great. Unless, aliens or something like that come and abduct you or something like that. So thanks for being with us again, Shane. We'll see you next Thursday.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Ciao. That was Shane. He joins us each and every Thursday, unless, it involves aliens or other things that he can't control that are out of his control. Looking forward to him. And thanks again, Stephen, for that. We will do a deep dive into what is considered accredited media in Canada and why certain media cannot ask questions to the government, but other media can. right? I thought they were just questions. I didn't think questions were dangerous, but I guess in the type of government we're heading into, questions are indeed dangerous, because questions then, I guess it's just assumed you have to answer it. If someone asks you a question, you assume then you have to answer it. And if you don't want to answer something, you don't like the question to begin with, right? So let's see. Let's go back to some of the stories we were going to cover today with Shane. But anyways, we got off on a bit of a tangent on the story he shared with me. And that is Chinese interference in our country to begin with. Here we have better cooperation needed to tackle Beijing's interference. As you know, the structure of government in China. So there's Chinese people, which are great people, just like you and I, just like anybody. There's good and bad, and all people all over the world. There's no one type of people that come from any other country that's any better than any other people. But the structure of their government, the governance, the format is communism, right? So something we talk about quite a bit on the show. And for our intelligence organization to alert the people through leaks and through other, and it wasn't even leaks about 10 years ago, they came right out and said there is a good chance that China is interested in Canadian politics and in our culture, and they're infiltrating it on many levels. So since then, we've heard leaks recently that there has been meddling in our elections from communist China, from the communist regime in China. There's also been secret, not so secret now, police stations in Canada with Chinese agents apparently here to keep tabs on the Chinese people that live in our country. Again, Chinese people are just like any other people, and there's good, there's bad, there's everything in between, just like anyone. But the government, the style, the format, the governance model is communism. So communism doesn't allow you to do your own thing, because the government is all-knowing, all-powerful, and they are there to look after all of the people in their own way. And if you they're not open to anyone's ideas. They have their own ideas, and you're going to do them. Okay? Even though it's presented to the people as everyone is equal. Everyone is equal. Do you think everyone is as equal as Xi Jinping in China? But yet everyone will say, well, communism, everyone's equal. Everyone's supposed to be the same. That's what communism is about. But again, just that simple question. Do you think the regular average day Chinese person in China is equal in every way to Xi Jinping or any of the people in his government? They're all equal, right? That's what we're told. You only end up with an elite class and a poor class is what happens, and you do what you're told, or what? This is what happened. So China said to Canada, you keep talking about this Chinese interference and you will suffer the consequences. That's what China said to Canada just recently. You will suffer the consequences. Interesting. I thought they were just another country, and we were a country, and we thought what we thought, and they thought what they thought. Aren't we allowed to look into if they're meddling into our country or not? Shouldn't that just be allowed? But with a communist country, you don't do something like that. And if you're now going to be the world superpower, you can make people suffer consequences. You just can. You can do that to people, right? So we're not dealing with the Chinese people, which are great. I have many, many Chinese friends, very close friends. And the people and the government are two absolutely different things, right? So when I say China, I'm not saying that I think I'm any better than, or Canada is any better than China as a country. It's the form of governance, period. And that's what I don't want to come here, but it's coming here like you wouldn't believe. Quick. And there's some of us who love the idea because we're very ignorant, not ignorant in in a disrespectful way, but we're ignorant, not really understanding what communism really means if you're living in it. People who've lived in it and have come here and start seeing signs that our government is turning more that way are scared as you know what. They know what communism is. It's not this benevolent, really great utopian world that's presented as, we look after everybody and everybody's equal. Yeah, everyone's equally as poor and has no rights equally, right? That's the equal part, other than the government. So it's not equal. That's what you said. Is anyone in China as equal as Xi Jinping? No. He's the absolute ruler. He has more power, and so obviously it's not equal. So right there, it's a flawed ideology, and everyone isn't equal anyways. I'm not equal to everybody. Everyone's not equal to me. We all have the same opportunities, but I might take the opportunity and someone else might not. So obviously right away it doesn't make it equal. Not everyone has the most goals on the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's not equal. Not everyone's the goalie. Not everyone has saves. Not everyone has brown hair. Not everyone has blue eyes. Not everyone. So equal is what does that even mean? We all have the same opportunities. You should make the playing field. You should say to Google and Facebook, any news outlet who gets any clicks gets the same amount. You don't say one organization that has more journalists gets more money. Obviously that's unequal, and that's what communism is more of. It's more unequal than it is equal. When they sell you the idea that it's equal, everything's equal. No, because that's impossible. So they're selling you an impossible idea. It can't be. If you set up laws that make it possible for everyone to then take the opportunity to excel and do what they, their talents and abilities can afford them to do and to be able to do it, and at the same time, those people that suffer, who have disability and things like that, we do take care of those people that don't have the opportunity because of something that holds them back. But that's a small percentage of our population that are like that. So you have to have safety nets in place for those that are unable to take those opportunities. But other than that, you make a playing field that's equal for the playing field's equal, the people aren't equal. Right? Because people can't be equal. It will never happen. Forcing it will never happen. But you make the playing field equal. So that gives everyone the same chance. So that's, a free society. You can even say democratic, but that's, more of just a society, a law-abiding society with laws based on the idea of the individual. The individual can have opportunities and a level playing field for everybody. And allow them, don't force them, don't force them to be equal because that'll never happen, kind of idea. So, off on a tangent a bit. So here you go. Better cooperation needed to tackle Beijing's interference, MP Chong tells U.S. lawmakers. So if you look back and you study the U.S. Constitution or the U.S. Bill of Rights, it's a little bit like what I'm talking about. It talks about setting up a level playing field for everybody to have. Yeah. So Noel says equality of outcome means work how we tell you. Take your pay and shut up or else you will suffer. Okay, there you go. And we only have a few minutes left. But so you remember here, the MP Chong was found to be meddled with from China. He's of Chinese descent himself. The United States and Canada should cooperate more closely on taking legislative action and exposing Chinese interference in order to reduce the Beijing regime's threat. Conservative MP Michael Chong told U.S. Commission. Mr. Chong, who's been personally affected by Beijing's attempts to meddle in Canadian politics, was in Washington, D.C. September 12th to testify before the Congressional Executive Commission on China. The long-serving MP told U.S. House of Representatives, senators, and administration officials about his personal experience and provided an overview of different ways the Chinese Communist Party, or CPP, tries to interfere in Canada. So he's basically outlining it all. He's saying this is how they try and interfere. And so we can at least know that, and we can take measures against it, right? So he's letting them know how they interfere in Canada, such as running illegal police stations, which we talked about, using Chinese international students for repression, and the dissemination of propaganda through what? The media. So is this guy off his rocker, or does he understand a little bit of how China kind of gets into Canada, right? So he says they interfere in Canada, they run illegal police stations. Illegal, so why aren't we doing anything about it? And they use their students. How many Chinese students do you think we have in Canada? Again, I'm not going out there and accusing anyone. This is Mr. Chong saying this, not me. So he's saying they do this. So either does he have information? Can he prove that they're used for repression? And the dissemination of propaganda through the media. Do they actually indeed do this? And is the media complicit in perpetuating Chinese type propaganda in our media? Yeah, you'll never, I guess, I don't know if we'll know, because if we shut down any other media other than that media, there's no other media to kind of to report on it, right? So, anyways, it's all the time we got. We're gonna come back with more of this tomorrow. I'll lead with or at least our deep dive tomorrow will be the three main stories that I want to talk about that are on this. They piggyback on each other, but that's a little, I guess, sample of what we can expect tomorrow. Doing my best to get the comments here up on the screen. And thanks for commenting. I'm grateful that we're actually on YouTube today. I wasn't expecting that due to how the logging on looked like we weren't going to be on YouTube. But anyway, so far so good. We'll have to get our player up on our website. So we'll indeed be able to at least be having our live stream online through our website. Thanks everyone for commenting. Appreciate it. And thanks for listening. If you're listening on CKLU 96.7 on the radio or cklu.ca. We really appreciate you. Have a great Thursday, everyone. We'll be back same time, same place, God willing, 7:30 a.m. on Friday. Can't believe it's Friday already. Tomorrow. Have a good one, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Ciao, everyone.